let's welcome your first comic of the evening, Mr. Peter Vilardi.
Hi, folks. How's everyone doing this evening? Now, fellas, you know how they say that waking up is the second hardest part of the morning? You know what the first hardest part of the morning is? Just the sadness, okay? Just the crushing existential despair and the realization that you will die alone and forgotten. So yeah, getting up's been pretty hard. Going to sleep's been pretty hard too, I'll tell you. I haven't been sleeping very well lately, and just recently I've come to the conclusion that I may or may not be cracking up. Let me give you an example. I was walking down the street the other day when I saw a friend of mine walking on the other side of the street in the opposite direction. And she said, "Hey!" And I said, "How you doing, friend?" And she said, "I'm doing okay. How about you, Peter?" And I said, "Well, I'm very busy, but other than that, I can't complain." And we exchanged some pleasantries and went about our merry way. At least that's what I thought happened. A couple days later, I went to a party with this person, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And she said, "You were really weird the other day." And I said, "I was?" And she said, "Yeah, don't you remember?" And I said, "Come to think of it, I don't remember seeing you. What happened?" And she told me. What had happened was she was walking, I was walking the other way, on the other side of the street, and she said, "Hey, Peter." And I said, "I'm very busy." And then I just walked away. Let's step back and examine the ramifications of that for a second, folks. After committing a serious social atrocity, my subconscious mind filled in the blanks with sitcom dialogue and then just deleted the whole thing entirely. So yeah, I really need to get some sleep. I think that's the upshot here. The other day, I was eating a gyro, or a gyro if you're one of those people, and the gyro had tomatoes in it, and I was eating some fries with ketchup, and as I bit into the gyro, a piece of tomato fell out of the gyro and landed in the ketchup. And I just felt so guilty, you know? That could have been its dad. Now, don't get me wrong, I still ate the tomato. I mean, it was pretty good. A little heavy on the tomato, but other than that, I don't regret it. I've been wondering, what is the proper thing to say to somebody who's coughing? Because it's not "bless you." I learned that the other day. Like the other day I was in class and someone coughed and I said, "Oh, bless you." And they said, "That's not what you say, and that's just fucking rude." So I told them to fuck off. But I don't think that's the thing that you say either. So I've been thinking about it and I've come to the conclusion, I'm pretty sure that the thing that you should say to someone who's coughing is, "I hope you don't die." Because honestly, that's the least I think someone should expect to hear from a friend. What's the next joke? Oh, yes. I'm working on a movie. It is part Tarkovsky's The Mirror, part Andy Warhol-styled experimental film. It will be one shot for 90 minutes of an overweight fat man with tears rolling down his cheeks, eating whole pies and just crying bitterly. And then at the very end, it will fade out and it will say, "Peter Vilardi, a life." Coming to a theater near you. I'll leave you with this. I was waiting in line at Chipotle to get dinner before coming over here to sign up for the show. And there was a gentleman standing in front of me reading the latest issue of our university newspaper, The Post. Now, I should tell you that a couple days prior, I had been interviewed for something in the Post, and my photograph had also been included with the story. And as it happened, this man was reading the newspaper with the page open to the story that I was in with my picture. And he turned to me all of a sudden and he said, "Oh my God, you're that guy." And I said, "Yeah, I'm that guy." He said, No, you're that guy from earlier who was walking across the street and he shouted, "I'm very busy," at his friend. And I went, "Hold on a second. That can't be true." And he went, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I'm a stand-up comedian, and as it happens, I'm going to tell a joke about that very story tonight." I don't think that ever happened. Here's what I think. I think you are a product of my subconscious mind that I wrote in to create the perfect callback and justify me talking about the story in the first place. After all, what is stand-up comedy but a series of minor opinions and events in your life that you blow up to enormous proportions and lie about until the line between fact and fiction is permanently erased. You saying that you came up to talk to me because you had seen me acting out the events in what would become a joke later tonight may be a good story, but it's certainly not the truth. And he said, "But Peter, it is the truth, should you choose to believe it." And he smiled and winked and tipped his hat and vanished into thin air before my eyes. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I really, really fucking need some sleep. All right, guys, you've been great. Take care.